Okay, everyone, welcome back. We're talking about my generation. We began last week learning Meimor HaDor from Rav Kook. One of his amazing essays. And what an interesting thing happened. Hey, Mike, welcome back. Okay. A new light began to emerge, which in Rav Kook's days, referring to the early Zionists, the new Yishuv. And this caused, Rav Kook is saying, endless pain for the entire generation. Both the old Yishuv and the new Yishuv find themselves in pain with the inability to express themselves, not being able to find the words to articulate their subconscious pain. And with this, the new souls coming down of the generation, when light comes down to planet Earth, what it does is it causes a shiur hakelim. And this shiur hakelim led to a deep self-alienation that happened to the entire generation, to the new Yishuv, to the old Yishuv. And everyone, Rav Kook is explaining, got wrapped up in their own fears, their own self, and a deep shame and blemish began to settle into their souls. Father and children, families totally wrecked, each person seeking connection with the other, with the inability to comfort themselves and really join together in a real way. It's like Father this past week shared with me in session. I mentioned something similar last week, but it's everyday occurrence that I hear this, that he's so disappointed and broken about the way, the frumkeit level of his children, And in the meantime, he tells me at the same time, his eyes wander here and there in every chat room, in every explicit chat room, while he's lamenting the fact that his kids aren't the frum level. Now, I mean this only with empathy. I don't mean this to blame anyone, but this is symptomatic of the deep pain and alienation and the fragmentation that we feel in our generation, that began in Rav Kook's generation, that each person is wrapped up in their own world. Each person is lamenting their own pain in their own inner sense, their own shame, their own anguish. Fathers, sons, husbands, wives, mothers, children, daughters, families, and we're all in this together, And this began already in Rav Kook's generation. So what we began with is talking about how when this light comes on, there's a shvira that takes place, and everyone's just broken. But of course, we know every yerida is litzarech aliyah, right? Every collapse is really for the purpose of something new to be brought to the table. And Rav Kook opens with what he calls the great pain, hamakoav hagadol, the great pain, and it's this lament, where he is reflecting the feelings of the generation. He's talking about the great pain that everyone's in, parents, children, the whole generation is in this amazing great pain. Morning, Moshe. Morning. So we're now going to jump right in, okay? So for those who are just beginning, it's the last paragraph on the first page, over here, okay? Last paragraph, first page. Vihine. And he's talking about, again, the anguish, right? And the anguish that we have, the very fact that we're bothered by this shows our greatness, right? If we weren't bothered by this at all, it's like I was working with someone last night. He says, Shaya, can you tell me something good about myself? That's what he says. Beautiful Hasidic man says, Shaya, can you tell me something good about myself? So I looked at him and I said, yeah, look what you're bothered by. You're bothered by all this. The very fact that you're bothered by this shows your goodness, shows your nekudas tovos, shows your essential holiness. And Rav Kook picks up on this and says, if we were really a low generation, if we were really meant to be low, it's fine, we'd be low. But because we're really meant to be great and we find ourselves in a state of lowliness and bothered with this deep subconscious pain, that shows that there really is kedusha inside. That shows our greatness, right? It's like Rav Sussman says in Likutei Halachos. He says on the piece of being Mahapach Yago Manachin to Simcha, he says a person uses their sadness for a springboard to bring them back to Kedusha. So the example he says is, a person as low as me is zoche to wear tefillin. How amazing, right? A person as low as me is, the very fact that I'm bothered by this thing shows my inner nekudas or, shows my inner nekudas panimi, right? Because if I wasn't bothered by it, then there would be a problem. Amazing. So, v'hinei, im haya be'emes dorenu dor ra'u mushchas. If it was true that our generation was a very evil and denigrated, low generation, dor asher cholatat bo, a door that is inherently sick. Az od hayinu mikablim aleinu ba'ava ezbuz vehakalon. Then we would be happy to accept upon ourselves the yisurim, the shame and the destruction, the pity. Kevan she'enu royim l'tzura zu l'tzura shel chaim yoter hagunim. Because we would accept our fate, we would accept our pain, because we're not fitting for a new tzura, a new form. He brings the pasuk over here. Pasuk in Yirmiyah, nishkava bibashtenu. We lay down in our shame, v'tachsnenu klimasenu, and we felt and we were covered with klimasenu, is another word for shame and embarrassment, or like humiliation, right? So we lay down in our shame and we were covered in our humiliation, right? So Rav Kook is saying over here, it's not the pain of sin. We're not feeling the pain of our averos. We're feeling the pain of our disorientation to this world. We're feeling the pain of our greatness, not the pain of our averos. It's not that we're sinning and therefore we're avaryanim and therefore we feel this pain. It's we feel the pain and the shame of our greatness and loneliness colliding together at once. And this is already where you see Rav Kook is making a turn. It's not that the new Zionists, the new generation, is full of averos. It's precisely their greatness which causes the pain. Which isn't, this is gonna get clear, I'm just foreshadowing. It's not that they're bums. It's not that the person is a lowly Baal Taiva. It's precisely because they're so great they feel this way. It's precisely because they're filled with an inner pnimi. So if I was a sinner, fine, then I can handle that. But it's not true. It's because we're filled with greatness, we feel so low. Right? Amazing. But what can we comfort ourselves when we look inside to our inner world? The ethics and the intellect and the understanding of the generation. Adarabah, nimtzanu lo dor shafel. No, the opposite. We don't find a low generation. Gam lo dor chote lefiha emes. And we also don't find a generation that is sinning in truth. This should make everyone's hair raise, right? He's saying on the early Zionists that they're not sinners, right? If you really examine closely the individual and the generation, you will see that it's not a generation of sinners according to truth. It's like the Beis Din of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva says, if I was on Beis Din, no one would be killed. If I was on Beis Din, I'd get everyone off the hook, right? So he's saying the people that were kofrim, denying the Torah, hating the religious Jews, they're not sinners. Right? It obviously takes the great tzaddik, the Bala Orot, the master of light, to reveal the Nekuda HaPanimius in this, right? The child's not a bad child. He's not a bum. Yeah, he's missing chakras. Yeah, he's doing this. Yeah, he's doing that. Right? But he's not a true sinner. If you really understood and you looked into their inner world and see everything that they've been through and everything we've been through, right? Then you would never judge the person as a bum and a sinner and a Baal Taiva and a person who just wants to be porego. You would never, right? It's like Shlomo Melech says, Havidanis kol adam lechavschus. You need to judge every person favorably, right? And the Meforshim point out, no, Havidan is kol ha'adam judge the entire person. Ha'adam, the person. Meaning to say, if you really saw the way they were raised and what they've been through and all the disappointments in their heart and everything from the creation, from the 6 days of creation, their whole entire family life history and their parents' psychological pathology and their grandparents' intergenerational drama, all the way back from before the Holocaust and everything that happened, you would say, oh, that guy? He's a tzaddik. He's a tzaddik. I have a friend of mine who tells me, a personal friend of mine, he married a non-Jew. It's a second marriage, and he lives in Arizona. And he tells me, we're talking about the matzav in Israel now, He tells me, I told my wife, he said, I think I could share this. He said, I told my wife, he tells me this 2 days ago. He says, I told my wife, I was talking to him, maybe you could bring her to the faith of Abraham, maybe you could bring her to the God of Israel, like from the Parshas of Abraham, it's not so crazy, I said, send her to this one, send her to that one. He goes, no. He goes, first of all, I don't believe in that type of conversion, He goes, secondly, I told my wife, if things get bad here, I'm out, I'm going to Israel. So either you're going to have to come with me, or you're going to have to run, or just stay put, like you'll be safe, but I'm not going to be safe, So I'm running to Israel, and I'm letting you know that I'm out of here when things get bad for us. That's what he says, And I said to him, I'm like, I'm going to spare his name. I was like, dude, you're a tzaddik, willing to leave it all behind, That if you'd really look, the dor chota be'emes, if you'd really, they're not sinners be'emes. If you'd really look at everything that he'd been through, what happened in the first marriage, and what happened with this, and what happened with that, and how he was betrayed by this one and that one, and the religious authorities, and everything like that, you'd see this guy's a tzaddik. He's married to a non-Jew, But if you really look in truth, right, adarabba, nimtzanu lo dor shafa, we don't find our generation a low generation. We find our generation, gam lord dor chote lefiha emes, and according to the truth, they're not sinners. Willing to leave it all and say, he says straight up, I'm out of here. I am leaving you if things go bad. And just prepare for that moment because I'm going to have to save my life. Because you could come. I don't know if you'll get let into Israel, he says, So, we're going to have to figure something out over here. And he said it dead serious. Dead serious is what he says. Bein ba'avos, bein bebanim. Tzaddik. Bein ba'avos, bein bebanim. Whether it's parents and their children, nimtza hamon dvarim tovim. We find so many good things. Mitzvahs, parsha shiurim, spending money on yeshivas, tefillin. We find a lot of mitzvahs. Rigshus adinim. We find feelings, gentle feelings, refined feelings, subtle feelings. Tehillim, wanting to come close to Hashem, being an ethical, moral person. Ritzonos nichbadim. Honorable wills and desires. Bechol anu roim, but never, even with all this, anu roim shechaser lanu hakol. We still feel lacking. I put the tefillin on, I give tzedakah, I do this, I dress tzniusly, I try to work on my kids, work on my midos, work on my relationship with my family, right? But nevertheless, we're still lacking everything. Levad mashel akinu b'kaflayim. Because this, that we were doubly struck, we were inflicted, lavad sheinenu nardafim ad savar. It would be enough, like he's lamenting, if we've been chased up until our necks. Lavad ma shedaminu nishpachim kemayim hamugurarim arza. Oh, enough! Whoa, he's lamenting, right? The pain of disorientation, that our blood was spilled like water on the ground. Ve'ein anu motzim b'nafshenu derech echli nachem. And we don't find a place within ourselves how to comfort, right? My mind is racing, my heart is beating, my palms are sweating, and I have no idea what to do. Afilu nechem ma'at. And I descended into survival mode where I can't even, it's the one behind, the sheet behind it. Yeah. I think you got it. Not that one, the other one. Boom. Oh, no, you were on the right sheet. Sorry. Yeah, you're right. Okay. Right? Right? I can't even comfort myself. I'm in survival mode, and my nervous system is going haywire. Al adam hayakar v'ahoev, on all the precious blood and loved. Dam beinenu v'achinu hayikarim, the blood between our brothers and sisters. He doesn't only mean the blood that was spilled, but he means our inner damim cherpa shavar libi, the shame and the blood that is constantly rushing to our face, that Reb Nachman talks about. You have to turn the dam into dome, that when we're embarrassed, the blood comes rushing to our face, and that inner dam of constantly fighting our inner worlds and coming to a place of comfort, that needs to be turned the dam into dome, that blood rushing into silence, right? Rabbi Nachman says in Torah Vav and Likutei Moharan, dam beinenu ve'achinu yikarim, both the shame of the children and the parents, halev naaseh yatso kimo even, and the heart becomes like a rock, right? Like Ezekiel says in chapter 11, Ezekiel chapter 11, he says that we have a lev even that will turn to lev basar, right? The lev even, right? The numbness, the impenetrability, the cynicism. Hamoach kematil oferes. Our mind is like it's like dust, it's like oferes, it's like ufar, like scatterbrained, or scatterbrained. Like, how distracted I am? My wife's like, oh, reach out to this one and get a number. 3 days later, she's like, did you do it? I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally got distracted. She's like, do it now. And then I don't do it, The mind is totally, whoop, right? ADH triple D, Just totally easily distracted. And the only thing we know is to divorce, right? He doesn't only mean that divorce, actually getting divorced, but he means l'garesh, get away from me, to separate, right? Get away from me, right? I'm just going to go to my room, fine young gentleman I work with, he shared with me, he goes, everyone in our house, we never had like a family area. Everyone just goes to their room. Everyone comes home and goes to their room. He's like, do you know what that is? The coldness.
A bunch of teenagers.
Look at a bunch of teenagers. The coldness. Everyone's just hanging out in their rooms. No one comes together in the family area. And then when they do, they fight. Everyone just comes home and goes to their room. Just get away from me. I need my own space. Right? And certainly we know IFS, Liz Garesh, means the parts in exile. The divorced part of ourselves that we're no longer in touch with because we feel so shamed by those parts. We feel so disillusioned by those parts that we take parts of ourselves. Someone told me yesterday, he says, I can't ever feel. I don't ever feel. I said, what happened to you? What happened? He goes, I can't remember a thing from my childhood. And I said, yeah. He goes, yeah. I put it in a box and I put 3M masking tape on. And that box is covered with dust and dirt. And it's never going to be opened. So they said, what would it be like? Classic therapy thing. I'm like, what would it be like to approach that box? What does that box look like? How does that box feel to you? What happened if you poke a hole in the box? What type of room is the box in? I started asking all sorts, and he's like, I can't access it. It's locked. It was garesh, put into exile. Not going to look at what happened to me. Right? Ulekatsef. So what happens? We become short-tempered. We have no patience. Ulekaes. We become resentment and filled with rage. Vilishna, and we have no ability, and vilisona, and we hate. We become no patience, short-tempered, we filled with resentment and hate. Oy mahayelanu, woe has come to me, Rav Kook says. Bas ami la'achsar ki yanim b'midbar. The daughter of my nation has been given to a cruel person ki ya'anim b'midbar, like jackals in the desert. Whoa, right? This is a pasuk in I think in Yirmiyah. See, he brings it over here. No, it's Eicha. Brings it in Eicha. Eicha Perak Hey. Oh no, Eicha Perak Dalet, pasuk Gimel. Right? So wow. This is amazing. Amazing. Lovad zeh, except for this, or in addition to this, hamistame haklalit hasovevet otanu ma'avirin mahamon rav. With this comes the hatred, hamistamemet haklalit, this hatred that surrounds us, osanu ma'avrin mahamon rav. We're surrounded by this, encompasses the masses. Habuz v'hashiflus hapnimis, right? The embarrassment, the inner humiliation and contempt. Hamivatzevtzet afilu mitoch libam she'osam hanadim lishvenu, that come from the people that even want to cast us aside and break us. V'ha'omrim shurloi l'rachem aleinu, right? And sorry, I read that wrong. The hearts of the people that come and say, let me give you compassion, like I want to help. They've lowered our spirit so much until even we ourselves say, Ein anu yecholim le'estakel al atzmeinu ki im be'ayin shel zam. The people that say, I've come to help you, at the end of the day, they've lowered our spirits so much that we can't even look at ourselves without inner contempt, without inner shame. Be'ayin shel za'am, like zoim, of scream, this inner shout, right? Shel chashad v'shel hashvala, ki'ilu anachnu, rak anachnu, hinenu ra'im v'chatayim. To look at ourselves with suspect, right? I'm sus, that's the new word, sus anochi, right? Sussman, right? Shel chashad v'shel shel suspicion, v'shel hashvel, of lowliness, ki'ilu anachnu, as if we ourselves, rak anachnu hinenu ra'im v'chatayim. It says only if we are the sinners. V'hasichlim v'chashuchim mikol am asher al pnei adama. Oy ve'alilai, borrowing words from Kinnas. If we become low and dark from all the nations on planet Earth, woe is to us, right? So even the right, I was thinking like the subconscious message of like self-esteem, right? If you're always like pumping your kid up and telling your kid, oh, you're good, you're worth it, you're good, you're worth it, right? What's the subconscious message? You're actually not worth it. This is why I always need to tell you you're not worth it. Right? The subconscious message of constantly plugging your kid and pumping them up and trying to teach them self-esteem is, you don't have any self-esteem. So I now need to constantly tell you that you have self-esteem. And the child feels that, right? That's how you give them a complex, right? Just keep on pumping your kid up in areas where they're not good, and he will become, or she will definitely develop a complex about themselves, right? So it's even the people that have come to help us, right? It's really caused more damage than good, right? The people that come to us, like I think, like what's the difference between empathy and sympathy, right? Empathy is like, I'm with you in this pain. Anochi imo b'tzara. Whoa, I'm not trying to answer you up. Sympathy is like, I told you so, right? Sympathy is like, oh, look at you. You're down there? Yeah, look at you down there. You know, I feel so sorry for you. I feel so sorry for you. Or how many times do you say, I feel so sorry for you? What do you feel sorry for me? Am I a loser? Am I a nebuch? You feel sorry for me? Right? It's very different. Empathy is, I feel with you. I'm journeying with you. I can see what life looks like from your perspective. I can see what life looks like through the window of your eyes. I'm willing to put my own agenda aside and feel the private perceptions of each individual going one by one and looking what their world looks like, while being able to come back to myself. Sympathy is, I feel sorry for you. Oh, Nebuch, I feel sorry for you. I told you so. Right? We all know that. Someone really feels sorry for us. You don't want someone to feel sorry for you. You want someone to feel with you, right? So it's like even the people that have tried to help us, right? That's what he's saying. Even the people that have tried to help us fills us with contempt and humiliation. This is amazing, right? Is this amazing? It's just, right? And then we become the most disgraced nation on planet Earth, right? Look at the Jews. Right? This needs no explanation nowadays, right? Tucker Carlson, Nick Fuentes, I don't know if people are Ben Shapiro, following the far left and the far right, right? It's a horseshoe. On both ends, extremes meet, you know? And here you are. And we're like, wait a minute, the Jews are in charge of the world? What should I make the weather today? Right? What is that? Right? But yet, if we know that we were meant to be, live in someplace in Indonesia and be some low nation, fine. We would accept our fate. But we know we're an filled with mitzvahs, filled with light, filled with chesed, filled with kindness, filled with Shabbos miros, filled with kiddushes, filled with bris milah, filled with every chesed under the sun, filled with honesty and not corruption, filled with goodness and light, filled with the Or Hashem, right? So if we were meant to be low, fine. We would accept our fate. I'm meant to live in Indonesia, Shalom Al Yisrael, right? But that's not who we are. That's not our inner nature. That's not our character. We're meant to be the rabbi of rabbis. and Or Lagayim, the rabbi for all the nations. To you, Mamleches Kohanim V'Goy Kadosh. That's what we're supposed to be. A priestly nation. Right? But yet then everyone looks and you're like, no, they're responsible for all the world's problems. Right? We know it's nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. Now Rav Kook is going to explain, right? And all this was coming down in his generation, right? All this is later he says that even though I'm saying all this and I'm looking at the most inner pnimi of the generation, right? He's saying this about the early Zionists, right? And he's saying it also about the old yeshuv, the charedim of the time. I think there's just this one big thing, fathers and sons, right? Fathers and sons all wrapped up together. The whole generation is in pain because of everything that's happening. It's like, I remember I once was reading this story, I think it was an All for the Boss with Menachem Herman, not Menachem, I don't remember his name, Rabbi Yaakov Herman, or an All for the Boss. Like, he came to Orot Yisrael, and they were like, out of the camps, and they're like, after 2,000 years, we have Orot Yisrael, And then he sees a car drive by him on Shabbos. He's like, what? This is what we came to Orot Yisrael for, right? This is what we came for, right? Everyone wrapped up in pain, And Rav Kook is seeing this, and he's reflecting this. And he goes, and he says later in the piece, in foreshadowing, he says, even though this has, everything I'm saying has not come to fruition at all, and is certainly undetectable by the eye, still, this is what's coming down, right? He's saying that this has began to emerge, this new Or Chadash, that he's going to be talking about, that he's describing with this pain. Because in Rav Kook's world, the collapse of the ego, the place of emotional exhaustion, where there's nothing to do. Like, I was listening to one of the hostages speak, and he was saying about the day on October 7th when they took him. I wish I could remember. Maybe it was Eli Cohn, but it was he had long hair and the scraggly beard, but now he has a shorter haircut, and he was saying a story, and he was saying the day that they took him, eventually they brought him from place to place to place, and they were whipping him and cursing him and beating him all along the way. And he said when he got to the cell, he saw other chatufim there, and he just completely collapsed, as you could imagine. Would you expect anything less, And this is what Rav Kook is describing. The collapse, the physical and emotional collapse, this place of utter exhaustion that just leads to the place of disintegration, right? But in Rav Kook's world, right? In Rav Kook's world, it's outwardly, it's full of collapse. But inwardly, it's a generation of extraordinarily moral sensitivity, a generation of amazing generation of refinement, a generation of people who are willing to risk their lives and dedicate and live and die by their ideals. It's I always think about Israel, what's one of the differences between Israel, compare and contrast. It's here currency is your ideals, I'm a settler, I'm a leftist, I'm a Haredi, I'm a Zionist, I'm a, everything in between, I'm an Anglo, I'm a, every nook and cranny of some type of thing that you could find across the religious spectrum and non-religious spectrum, right? That's the currency. Currency is not money, because people don't have money. I mean, some people do, but the Rov Hamonam, the currency is ideals. What are you willing to live and die for, right? Where do you live your life? What is the orientation of your life? What is it that you're doing, right? Even the far left, right? Everything. He's saying that even though this hasn't come to fruition, this is a generation of amazing, wants lofty things, that we want so much out of life, but yet we don't get it. It's like a kid sleeps every day late and he's not going to yeshiva, and you're wondering, why is he not going to yeshiva, right? It's because his soul wants so much connection, and instead he gets to yeshiva and they're like, what does Tosfos say? And the details of the details of the details. So they go to school and they're systematized and systemically cut down. So you take someone who has healthy energy, healthy passion, a young girl, a young guy, who they want to run around, they want to be creative, they want to feel a sense of connection, and then they get to yeshiva and it's like, whip, your shirt was untucked. Someone told me recently they got a $300 knas for something that they were doing. It's absurd, $300, right? Meaning to say, it's not even like the kid getting knas. It's like, let's punish the parents for the kids because the kid is a sinner, right? The basic premise is the kid's a bum and a baltaiva, right? So now we have to knas him, we have to whip him back into shape, right? Crazy. We have to throw the kid out of school. We have to we have to whip them with the rod of Torah. So then of course the person doesn't want to go to school. What's fun about school? You're systemically, breaking down an individual. What's good about that? The kids want, and it's not only the kids, it's us ourselves, it's our inner child, it's all of us. We want light. We want connection. We want something that makes sense. We want something deep, and not to get whipped with the rod of Torah. That's the last thing a person wants, right? So all this is happening to us, and we're like, thanks for coming, right? All that is happening to us, right? And we're like, well, why don't they get up? They're bums. No, they're not bums. It's because they get to school, and it's so pragmatic, and they're like, what? This is Yiddishkeit? Better I sleep late. The pain of the soul puts them into slumber, right? So they could avoid that pain, right? But if you tell them something good, you teach them a little bit of Nachman, you teach them a little bit of Rav Kook, you teach them some Pnimiyus HaTorah, right? Right? Then what happens? They start to come alive. You teach them a little Navi, and then they come alive because they want something deep. They don't want the pragmaticness. We'll do something over here. We could do one more paragraph. We'll do one more paragraph over here. Hayadayim rafos, the hands are weak, v'arbachaim koshlos, and my knees are trembling. The knees are trembling, right? Somatic. Mike, I know you know about somatic therapy, right? The knees are trembling, right? Halev nomog, the heart is melting. Ve'inayim ta'os l'tor po v'sham, and the eyes are looking here and there, right? Your eyes wandering. Ulai yesh eze nekuda or, maybe there's a drop of light. Eze nitzotz tanchumim, maybe there's a spark of a hope, of a way that I could comfort ourselves. Shiur roy lahayir lechamim, that could warm me up, one last modicum of hope, one last nekuda pnimi. Lahalos al yado shaheves eish kodesh, to bring the light, to warm up from the holy fire. Aval me'uma lo yimatzu, but even a little bit we don't find, right? This total collapse of the self. Ha'avos nevhalim v'noshayim, the fathers are baffled and give up. Va'abanim aleim reges v'ketzef, I give up, let him sleep. I give up, let him sleep, right? Let her dress that way. I give up, I can't fight it. Let them be stressed. Right? And the children are filled with shame and anger and contempt. V'ishvas re'eu lo yadav v'lo yavin, and each person doesn't know what the other person is thinking and saying. I can't understand them. Kol echad miskader b'tzarasam yuchadaslo, and each person goes ahead and they get caught up in their own inner world. They disappear to their rooms. Kol echad ma'ashim es chavero, and each person they talk about their friend. Can you believe what Rivka did? Can you believe what they're doing? Who needs such a house like that? Oh my God! Look at their children. V'tola hakulo rak b'tzavaro, and each person they blame the other. They blame the other. It's your fault. No responsibility. You know how hard it is for someone to say, I made a mistake. I made a mistake. I messed up. I made a mistake. Just say, I made a mistake. Is that such a crazy thing? I messed up. I made a mistake. No, it's your fault. No, that's what you wanted. It's your fault. Start blaming. Just say I made a mistake. I heard Rosh Shmuel Brazil once. He told me. He said, when you learn with your chavrusa, what does a person say? If they were wrong, they say, you're right. You're right. He goes, no one wants to say, I'm wrong. No one wants to say, I'm wrong. What if you were wrong? Say, I'm wrong. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. Are we not human? Can we not say, I made a mistake? I messed up? Is that beyond ours? Everyone deflect. Say, I made a mistake. Right? So each person is blaming the other person because they've descended into their own world. V'lahashiv es lavavos eila le'eila, and to bring hearts close to one another, to mend, to repair. V'kal v'chomer l'shalav es hayadayim lavodas chashuvas v'klolos, and kal v'chomer, to work together for something greater. Ein dorish ve'ein mevakesh. We don't seek it out. We don't even look for it. Nahapchu alai tziri, right? It was nahapchu alai tziri. My pain was flipped upon me. Ve'elech mar v'chamas ruchi, and we go bitterness, the entire generation. We go bitterness with chamas ruchi, with down spirit. Ve'yado lehim alai chazaka, and the hand of Hashem is upon me, right? This is amazing. It's amazing. So Rav Kook is saying that Hashem's presence doesn't disappear when we lose emunah. Well, what happens? It closes itself in yish. It hides in despair. And Rav Kook is forcing us to face this pain. Right? I was working with someone yesterday. I said to this woman, what? It was a busy day yesterday. I didn't sleep. I was seeing people into the night. And they, this is just so relevant, everything, because it lends itself to this because he's describing everything that we experience. So it's this client, that client, it's me, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's you, it's everyone. Right? No one's free from this. We're talking about rage and resentment. So I said a practical exercise. I said, write down everything you're angry about and face it straight on. Stop running from it. Write it down. Take out your pen. I'm angry about this. I'm angry about that. I'm angry about this. Face it. Go from here to here. And Rav Kook is forcing us, opening our eyes to face this great pain, to face the disillusionment, to face the shame, to face the brokenness of families not getting along with each other, to face the existential crisis and the inner angst that we all experience. Do you think I have time to read one more? Do you think we got to stop? What do you guys think? What? Go for it? Okay. I want to read this piece. It's the last page. I'll read it quickly due to time. But this is a piece in Orot Yisrael, which is one of the sections in Orot Yisrael, Perek Hey, Keta Yud Gimel. Hayetzira Elohis misgala ba'olam, a new form, a Yetzira Elohis misgala ba'olam, a divine form is being revealed in the world. Koach mole olamim, its strength is filled with all the worlds. Mofia es yitzurim kulam, and it's appearing to all creation. Vishoef la'ashlamas hayoter elyona. There's a new creation that's beginning to emerge, and it's the highest creation that's appearing in this world, a new thing, and it longs to be completed in a very lofty way. Mitoch kach harehu mevale es maisi yadav, and because of that, it dries up mevale. It dries up the hands of our labor. Yotzer yitzurim, it forms formations. Umotze es surasam hashlama lepoel. This force, it brings out the inner potential to creation, to fruition. V'hatzura mitazeret bigvura, and this new creation, this new image that is coming down, it's girded with strength. Hamitgaberet liyotze yitzura yoter nizgavo, and it's strengthening itself for a very, very high thing. Yoser mifuara, even more beautiful. Yoser adina, even more refined. Umiskavet, and more understood. Vihi mocheket et his galmus hatsuri habilti nishlama, and it erases the previous form of what wasn't totally perfected. Va'osa es darka b'hofa shel chaim yoter shlamim, and it goes upon its way to bring about a greater, more perfected life. Shal metzias yoser mitukenet, to an existence that is more perfected. Meaning to say, Rav Kook is saying that it's exactly what he's saying in Meimor HaDor. There's a new creation coming down to the world that is more perfect, more refined, more gentle, more greater, more nicer, more connected, more pnimi than the old form. And therefore the old form starts to disintegrate because there's a new neshama, there's a new or that's appearing and emerging in the world. Incredible, right? Incredible. In the life of our nation, the generation in our nation, it's being revealed in the world. That the old neshama is being revealed, the old neshama, the neshama of Abraham, the neshama of Shimshon, the neshama of all the Giburim of Yiftach, the neshama of Shmuel Hanavi, the neshama of David HaMelech, the neshama of Yoshua. And the old neshamas start to be re-revealed in the world. Or Elohim, the light of Hashem, Ze'esh Ochla. It's the light, it's the fire that eats. Hu la'amim kulam shem chofim va'orim. It eats the nations that come and go. Tzurasa mitmacheket. So the tzura of our nation gets erased. It gets erased. The old Jew gets erased. It takes a new form in a new light that is coming down. Tzurasa mitchamek. It gets erased. In order that our nation should have a more perfected and a more better image, a greater sense of self. Only in the Jewish people does this come down. And the Shekhinah comes down to Sion. And the fire of Hashem grabs us and brings it back to life here in Israel. It becomes a light that warms, a light that gives empathy, a light that gives love, and not a fire that burns and destroys. And you, the nation of Israel, the generation of Israel, right? Where cling to Hashem, we have connection with God all the days of our lives. Is that amazing? And he's speaking about this new Jew, this new light that's coming down. Unbelievable. Hafla v'fela. Amen. All right. This word should be dedicated to Uriel ben Chaim Mordechai, who's Shloshim today. And it was schus that he brought his family here and raised his generation here in Israel and continuing to grow up in the Avir Zach V'nach with this new or that's coming down.